Good morning to everyone. Good morning, good morning. Happy Monday and happy holiday to everyone, to our students who are joining with us, and to those who are also tuning with us, mga kapatid sa Panginoon Diyos. Good morning. Welcome to our devotion for this morning because today God is first. For this day, we'll be learning and talking about the book of Zechariah, specifically on chapter 2, verses 3 to 5. And for this morning, I entitled our devotion, The Prosperity and Protection Under His Presence. The prosperity and protection under His presence. So let me read to you chapter 2, verse 3 to 5 of Zechariah. And behold, the angel who talked with me came forward, and another angel came forward to meet him, and said to him, Run, say to that young man, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as villages without walls, because of the multitude of people and livestock in it. And I will be to her a wall of fire all around, declares the Lord, and I will be the glory in her midst. Zechariah chapter 2, the prophet receives a vision of a man with a measuring line, symbolizing God's plan to restore and expand Jerusalem. This also chapter emphasizes God's protection and presence, with the promise that He will be a wall of fire around the city and its glory within. The vision also foretells the gathering of God's people from all nations, pointing to a future time of peace and divine blessing. This also serves to reassure the people that God has not abandoned them, and that He has grand plans for their future, filled with His protection, presence, and blessing. If we would try to read verses 3 to 4, we could see, or it begins with a conversation about Jerusalem's future. The city, which has been destroyed and left in ruins, is now being measured for restoration. But surprisingly, as we could continue to read these verses, Jerusalem will be a city without walls due to the great number of people and livestock, as what mentioned here on verses 3 to 4. And this imagery conveys abundance and growth, suggesting that the city will expand beyond its former limits. Because in ancient times, city walls were crucial for protection. A city without walls would be vulnerable to enemies. Yet, here God is saying that Jerusalem's expansion will be so great that walls cannot contain it. This points to God's desire for His people to grow, flourish, and be numerous, reflecting His blessings and favor. Going to verse 5, it declares here that I myself will be a wall of fire around it. And this is a powerful statement of divine protection. Unlike physical walls that could be breached or destroyed, a wall of fire represents an impenetrable divine shield. And it symbolizes God's fierce protection of His people, ensuring their safety from any harm. But God's promise does not stop at protection. He also says, I will be its glory with it. And this means that God Himself will dwell among His people, filling the city with His presence, splendor, and holiness. Because truly, the true glory of Jerusalem will not be in its physical structures or wealth, just like we have read here on verses 3 to 5, but in the presence of God Himself. And what a great picture, what a great illustration that we could see to the land of Jerusalem. And he's talking about how he'll be going to bless his people in Jerusalem. And the verse right before this says, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as villages without walls because of the multitude of people and livestock in it. Just a picture of God's blessing. And then in verse 5, God says, I will be to her, to Jerusalem, to my people in Jerusalem, a wall of fire, and I will be the glory in her midst, God says. And what a picture of God saying to his people, I am your protector, I am your provider, I am watching out for you, I am setting a wall of fire around you, and my glory will be among you. And for this morning, one thing that this passage would tell us, that let us continue to trust him and seek to live with his glory within us, knowing that his plans for us are always for our good and for his glory. Because this passage offers us a deep understanding of God's relationship with his people. First, it shows that God's plan for us often go beyond our expectations. While we might focus on physical or material security, God is more concerned with our spiritual growth and his presence in our lives. God's protection is also unique. Just as he promised to be a wall of fire around Jerusalem, he surrounds us with his divine protection, shielding us from the spiritual battles we face. And more importantly, he desires to be the glory within us. Our true value and strength comes from his presence in our hearts. And as we continue to reflect in this passage, we can draw parallels to our own lives. We may face challenges, threats, or uncertainties, but we're assured that God is our protector. He surrounds us like a wall of fire, and nothing can come against us unless he allows it. Furthermore, God desires to dwell within us, to be the glory in our hearts, guiding, comforting, and empowering us to live for his purpose. As we face again this day, this week, and as we end this week of August, let us reflect on areas of our lives where we need to trust in God's protection, that are needed to be surrounded to him. Just as God promised to be the glory within Jerusalem, invite him to dwell richly in us. Let us spend this day with him through prayer, worship, reading his word, allowing his presence to fill our lives, knowing that God is both protector and present around us. Thus live confidently in his promises, and let his presence guide us in all that we do. We praise the Lord for his word, and may the Lord bless you and keep you throughout this week. And that is the prosperity and protection under his presence on Zechariah chapter 2, verse 3 to 5. May the Lord bless you, and see you on our next devotion. God bless you.